Hello, it's Sonia here with The Pretty Stitch. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time joining me, I'm so happy to have you here. So today we are going to be making a scarf. So I am going to be using an H hook or a 5mm hook, and I am using this DK weight yarn. So this is just going to be demonstrating how to make the scarf. I've already made the scarf and you saw that in the intro. And for that scarf I did use an H hook. And I did use a combination of actually worsted weight yarn and DK weight yarn because I had originally wanted to make it all in one color, and I realized going in I didn't have enough. So then I needed to combine the colors, and so I thought it would be okay using the DK weight yarn, and it was fine. So this scarf is going to be a tutorial, so you can make your scarf for however long you want, however wide you want, and it's very simple scarf. It uses just 4 stitches, and that would be a chain, a slip stitch, single crochet, and double crochet, and that's it. And what you need to do for this scarf is you're going to need to start out making a very long chain, and you want your chain to be as long as you want your scarf. So the chain that I made, I didn't actually count. You don't have to worry so much about stitch count. You have to worry about counting a little bit, but not too much. But you just need to make your chain as long as you like your scarf. So my sample scarf, I like very long scarves, so I made a chain about 70 inches long. So that's a lot of chains, but once you get into it, it's not too bad. So what you're going to do, I'm just going to make a random chain here, and then I will show you how to make this scarf, because this is more of a recipe, not an exact pattern. So as I said before, you can customize this however you like, as wide as you like, as long as you like. That's the fun part of this scarf. So you can really make it your own. You can use all one color. You can use every row a different color. You can just, use 4 colors, or however you want to do it. So here is my chain here. I just made a short chain. I think it's about maybe 60 chains. I'm not sure. I didn't bother counting. And that's the beauty of this project. You don't have to count chains. Sometimes that's a pain, like if you're making, let's say, a blanket and you have to make a really long chain and losing track of your counts. With this, you don't. Just make your chain as long as you like your scarf, and then you can get going. All right, so what we're going to do is with this pattern, the fringe, the flower fringe, is crocheted right on to the scarf, all in one piece, so you don't have to worry about stitching the body of the scarf and then going back and adding fringe. Okay, so what you need to do is from your 4th chain from your hook, you're going to count 1, 2, 3, skipping 3 chains, and you're going to work a double crochet in your 4th chain. And you're going to chain 3. So we're creating the flowers on the end of our scarf. So after you've chained 3, you're going to slip stitch right in that same stitch, and you have created your first petal. So here we go, and we're going to make a total of 5 petals. Now if you wanted to, let's say you wanted to make like a 3-leaf clover scarf or a 4-leaf clover scarf, you could only do 4 petals if you wanted, or 3 petals. Alright, so to begin the next petal, you're chaining 3, and you're going to work a double crochet right back in that same stitch, and chaining 3. And we're going to slip stitch right back in that same stitch. So now we've created 2 petals. So I wanted 5 petals, so I'm going to keep going and make my last 3 petals. So chaining 3, double crocheting right in that same stitch, chaining 3. So you just keep repeating this until you have the amount of petals that you want for your scarf, or if you don't want to have any petals and you just want to have like a little decorative little bobble thing, you can do that as well. Definitely customize this however you like. Now with my fringe, I have different lengths of fringe, just 2 different lengths. If you wanted yours to be all the same length, you can certainly do that as well. I just thought it would give a little bit of interest to have different lengths of fringe. So 1, 2, 3, 4, I want 1 more petal. And I've used this technique with some other projects because I like flowers. So I like to incorporate flowers, and I don't like sewing that much, so I've made like freestanding flowers and then, like appliques, and then stitch them on. But if I can just stitch the flowers right on, I'm going to do it. All right, so we have created our first little flower. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got our 5 petals. So what you want to do is you want to go back in your chain and get as close as you can. It might be a little hard to see, to the very next chain, and you're going to slip stitch in there. So this is where you will need to do a little bit of counting. So that's stitch 1, and we're going to do this for 26. You're going to slip stitch 26 stitches. So this is 2, 3, 4. So you can work in your chain however you like, just slip stitch across in 26 stitches. So 5, 6. So I'm going to keep going off camera and finish up my 26 slip stitches there in my chain. Okay, so here we've got our first part of our fringe. So here is our first cute little flower there, right there. And I slip stitched across 26 chains. So now we are going to get into the body of the sweater, or not the sweater, the scarf. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to work in the back bump of the chain. So I did not work in the back bump slip stitching here. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but I did not. But we are going to just single crochet across our chain here, working in the back bump. And I'll explain why we're doing that a little bit later. So just turn your chain over, work in the back bump, and just single crochet all the way across. So this is row 1, and I'm not sure if I said that. So when you start the fringe part, which we did in the beginning here, so this is part of the fringe, this is part of row 1, and then obviously this is part of row 1 too. So you're just going to want to single crochet all the way across. So it is kind of a pain to single crochet in the back bump in a very long chain, but you know, persevere. I think you know, you'll be pleased in the end, because it's, once you get going with this project, it doesn't take that long, and I think it's really, really cute. I always like to make myself a scarf each winter, and this is it. The idea just popped in my mind, and I was like, let's see how it pans out, and I finished it, and I really love it. So now I have my scarf for the winter. Okay, so I have single crocheted across my chain in the back bump, and I said I would explain why we are single crocheting in the back bump. And the reason is, so here is the underside of the chain, and then here is the top of our stitch. So the reason why I like to single crochet in the back bump is so that the both ends look almost exactly the same. So that's why. Alright, so let's keep going for row 1. We're still on row 1. So now we need to make the other side of the fringe. So what you want to do is chain 30. Okay, so I've got my 30 chains here. So we're still on row 1. And now we're going to do the same thing as we did in the beginning here. We're going to create a flower for the other end. So here's our 3 chains. We're skipping 3, working a double crochet in the 4th chain from our hook. And then we're going to chain 3 again. And slip stitch right in that same stitch to complete the petal. And I want 5 petals, so I am going to keep going here, chaining 3, double crocheting in that same stitch. So I said before, you can make as many petals as you would like. Alright, so there we go, and then we need to slip stitch across our chain, just like we did on the other side. And then after we're done slip stitching, and as I said before, get as close as you can. Now this time you don't have to worry about counting, because you're just going to slip stitch across until you get to your first single crochet. So minimal counting with this pattern, not too much. I think I made this while watching TV, so it's a good pattern to kind of just, you know, turn your brain off a little bit. You have to think a little bit, but sometimes it's nice to have one of those easier patterns that you don't have to concentrate as hard on. So I'm just going to continue working my slip stitch down my chain, and then we will get ready for row 2. Okay, so we have finished up our other part of row 1. So we've got flowers on both ends now. So row 1 is now complete. So now we're going to start row 2. So row 2, we are going to begin by making the next fringe. And as I said, I wanted mine to be 2 different lengths. So the next one is going to be a longer chain. So if you wanted all of your fringes to be the same length, then you would chain 30 again. But I wanted mine to be different. So the sample one I chained 30, and then the next one I chained 40. So all of my odd rows were 30, and all of my even rows were 40. So I am going to chain 40. Okay, so I've got my 40 chains here, and then we're going to do the same thing as we did with the other fringe. We are going to work the flower. So 4th chain from our hook, working that double crochet, and then chaining 3, working that slip stitch, and chaining 3 again. Okay, so I've got my 5 petals. Now I'm going to go back to my chain and just get as close as you can, and I'm going to just slip stitch down my chain. And as I said before, this is row 2, I'm sorry, row 2 of our flower scarf here. So I'm just going to keep slip stitching down this chain until I get to the single crochet. Okay, so you can see here is my row 2, and this part of the fringe is a little bit longer, and that's just what I wanted. So we are still on row 2. So now we are on the body of the scarf here, and what you're going to do now is we are going to work in the back loops of our single crochet, and we are going to single crochet all the way across, working in the back loops. Now if you don't want to work in the back loops, you certainly don't have to. I just think it gives it a little bit of interest, makes it a little bit more exciting than just a basic single crochet stitch. Single crochet is probably my least favorite stitch. I mean, it's still very useful. Obviously I'm using it, but I like to try to make it a little more exciting if I can. So we're working in the back loops, and I really do like the way it looks. So you're just going to single crochet in the back loop all the way across until you get to the end, and then we are going to finish up row 2 by working the other part of the fringe. Okay, so I single crocheted across, working in the back loop. So now I need to complete row 2 by making the other part of the fringe. So I am going to chain 40. And I'm going to chain 40, and then I'm going to make the flower just like we've been. And then after that, I'm going to slip stitch down to here. So I'll do that off camera since we have been, you don't need to see me do that again. We've been doing it a little bit now. And so then I will get ready for row 3. All right, so we have finished up row 2 here. So let's begin row 3. So as I said before, I'm alternating my fringes here of short, long, short, long. So this is row 3. I'm going to chain 30. And then I'm going to make my flower to begin row 3. And I'll slip stitch down my chain, and then I will meet you back. Okay, so here is my flower for row 3. So now we need to single crochet across, and again we are going to work a single crochet in the back loops all the way across. And then when you get to the end of your single crochet row, then you will need to chain 30 and work your flower and slip stitch back down your chain. So for this pattern, what you need to do is just repeat rows 2 and 3 for however long or however wide you want your scarf. And that's it. So pretty simple. So you could have a thinner scarf if you wanted, or if you wanted it really wide, you can certainly do that as well. And then when you're finished, you'll just need to weave in your ends, and if you want to give it a light block, then you're all set. Alright, so here is my sample scarf that I made, so you can see it here. So what I ended up doing is, as you can see, this is the worsted weight yarn, and then in the middle here is DK weight yarn, and then I ended worsted weight. So I actually made 25 rows. And as you can see, working in the back bump there, and then the other side here, so it looks pretty similar. And I just like, I really like the way this turned out. It's really, really cute. I'm really pleased with it. So here we go, and you can end on a row 2 or a row 3. It's up to you. Now I wanted mine to be alternating of the 30 chains, the 40 chains, you know, the 30 chains, 40. So I ended on an odd row because I'm all about symmetry. So I wanted both of my ends here. It's hard to see through, or it's hard to see because of the how close I am, but I wanted both of my last flowers to be, I wanted both of my flowers to be a chain 30. But again, you could do it however you like. But here we go, here's my sample one. So yeah, super cute, really, really happy with it. I think it looks okay, even though I used the 2 different weights of yarn, and I did use an H hook for this as well. And as I said in the beginning, I don't know how many chains I made, to be honest, but I did chain about 70 inches to start with. And again, I wrote like a really long scarf, and then, you know, the fringe adds a little bit too. So it just depends on what your preference is with your scarves. If you don't like a scarf, you know, that long, then you don't need to make a chain as long as I did. But as I said before, I'm all about the long scarves, you know, like Doctor Who. That's how I roll. So I hope you enjoyed this project, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.